Oh my god, Capcom have actually gone and done it. All of the biggest and brightest dreams that you might have about Resident Evil Requiem, they've at least plucked, I think, probably the most important key one out, and they have made it official. Lots of discussion in the last few days since the trailer dropped. What perspective is Resident Evil Requiem going to be in? And it turns out it's going to be both first and third person. I'm Sai for First Aid Spray, joined today by James.
Hello. It's me finally.
It's you finally to talk about your feelings on Resident Evil Requiem, but also just all this news that has dropped in the last hour as we record this. There was, as it turns out, some internal demos of Requiem at Summer Games Fest, and the embargo has lifted, so we've got a bevy of screenshots and a whole bunch of information and insights from people who saw an offhand demo and in some cases played an on-hand demo. There's no footage of it. It's mostly just people's accounts of what happened. Just to take you through some of the key details, there was a short video from the director, who is Koshi Nakanishi, of course, who directed Resident Evil 7. And here's the first thing, the first turn of the screw for me. He described the game as addicting horror. Now, first of all, that's terrible because addicting is an awful word. It's addictive horror. I'm kidding. But that's the feeling they're going for with Resident Evil Requiem, and there's a feeling that, we've all sort of described survival horror as, the want to keep playing, but also the terror of going back out there, which, from the descriptions that other people have given about this demo that they played, seems quite apt. It's Grace in a hospital kind of area called Rhodes Hill Civic Center, being stalked by the very tall monster we saw from the trailer, which bites zombies' heads off, apparently, and comes out of the ceiling and all this good stuff.
Wow.
There was no combat in the demo, but some puzzle solving and general atmosphere and vibes. I guess, first of all, James, how are you feeling about this slew of information?
Oh god, it reminds me of this reminds me of the demo they released for Village, where there was no combat in that either. Right?
Oh, the Maiden demo. Yeah, I was just racking my brain for a moment there.
Yeah,
yes.
the one that hardly any of us got to
RE7
play.
as well. Right, yeah. RE7's like early stuff, demo-wise, and even just like the early part of the game is no combat for a while. So I also had a very similar kind of feeling about this.
Yeah, and like there was no, and it was a very small, very, very small part of the game as well in both of those as well. So yeah, I'm wondering if they just kind of they repeat what's good, because everybody loved those demos when they came out. They really like generated a lot of hype for them. So very excited. This is the first time I've been able to talk because I have a very busy weekend. It's the first time I've had to talk. I could talk about Requiem, so this is exciting.
Yes, lots of people saying that what they played or what they saw being played was probably the sort of earliest part of the game. There was a lot of tutorializing for basic stuff on there, so presumably this is how the game starts. And yeah, so that makes sense in terms of setting up the vibe, and the vibe they are definitely going for is horror, which is, set it in a hospital is kind of perfect. And immediately, no other enemies, apparently. There's this unnamed stalker. There are so many places to pick this apart. But before, I guess, we get into the actual demo itself, I do want to talk about the perspective thing, because, as I say, it's a big damn deal. With the Resident Evil Village and the DLC making it possible so that you can play both. That was a wonderful thing. We both know people who struggle with motion sickness in video games, and that made Village difficult and 7 difficult for some people to play. And also just from a preference thing, right? So I think this is wonderful news, and it's just, I try not to glaze companies too much, but Capcom makes some fantastic decisions a good amount of the time. And this is one of them for me. Like, the fact they have actually, pulled this off is very, very promising.
Yeah, and they've also listened as well. I think that's the most important part, is that you make your consumer feel listened to. And like we got that with Village, everybody, there was not everybody, but there was a lot of people who couldn't play in the first person mode, and so they went back to the drawing board and basically made the game again. For folks, so they can play the game. I love that in development. I love that in anything, when you know a company is listening to you. And it brings new people in, and it brought so many people in. Like, I remember when that first person came in for Village, it was like a bunch of my friends were playing it for the first time, even after a year of it being released, and they were coming to me, and it was like it was great because they were discovering it for the first time, and I love hearing people kind of be passionate about things, so like beforehand I was hearing a lot of people getting upset about the first person, and then when the third person came out, people were excited about the game again, and that's all they want. They just want to experience it their way.
Cool. So how are we feeling about the demo then? Specifically, I guess like the location. There's a bunch of stuff to glean from. More so the screenshots than anything else. We have like this aerial shot of potentially what is the center of the area, more of an open space, which is something that we've seen a little bit from in the trailer, from a different perspective, but it's certainly the same one as the shot with the woman walking down that hallway, which is an interesting thing in itself, of course, because that means that at some point in the game, potentially, unless it gets removed, someone is walking around alive in here, which doesn't see, other than Grace, which doesn't seem to be the case in the demo. It is just you and the big nasty. And yeah, puzzle solving elements. We have a hallway with the horse statue down the end. And I guess the other important thing is we have the return, of course, of themed keys. They're really going hard on the Resident Evil, classical tropes. And the cherub key, as apparently it's known, is like a big focus point of one of these screenshots. Shows you some nice detail on objects, but very clearly this is a puzzle solving, at least from Grace's point of view, and I'll put a pin in that for now, a puzzle solving kind of Resident Evil. But how are you feeling about Rhodes Hill?
So one thing I want to highlight is that it is a care center, and care centers are typically for the old or infirm, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
I now again, like we'll be putting a lot of pins into stuff, which you'll hear later on. But yeah, I think that's very illuminating. Because it I love that, because we've never gone to like a care home in like a survival horror, as far as I know, in recent years. It's always just flat, it's just straight up hospitals. Very excited about that. In terms of the aesthetic, this week I started playing RE2 Remake to try and match some locales to see if we could find anything. But all we could find was basically really similar things. But they weren't quite the same, which is also really great because it means that asset reuse isn't a big thing. I think there has been some asset reuse, potentially, or it could be deliberate. Like the floral patterns on doors look very Dimitrescu, for instance.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, like the gold, that you saw a lot of white and gold in Casa Dimitrescu, whereas in this it's a lot of white and black, or like a lot of neutral like colors. I would need to investigate further when it comes to that. But yeah, there's a lot of interior in that room with the chair in the middle as well.
Yes.
Which is exciting, which I think is in the same place, because it just looks like I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. It's that kind of like horrible, barely, put together kind of care home, barely taken care of. That shot with the chair actually caught my attention. But now, actually comparing it to the trailer, it's not quite what I thought. I thought that might be the plush chair that Chairman is sitting in from the trailer, but he sat next to a gramophone, and rather than a lamp, and the little table next to the chair is different, but I don't know. I mean, it's curious because we're only seeing the chair from behind in the trailer. But I do wonder. There's lots of questions. I love the fact that whilst we're being shown more here and we've got stuff to talk about, I have more questions than ever, because the trailer talked about a Wrenwood Hotel, and it talks about a return to Raccoon City, of course, and now we have Rhodes Hill Civic Centre. So all these different locations. I don't know if this is in Raccoon City. I would be surprised to learn that, because, I mean, it's meant to be half bombed. I know a lot of it clearly survived from what we've seen, but not in this kind of state.
So I'm wondering if so this place, I think personally, I think this is where Grace is sent by Dempsey to look for the bodies, because there's literal bodies on gurneys in that corridor. If you look closely, There's a couple of bodies there. Maybe the place we have to go to investigate these bodies that our chief sent us to. And in terms of that nurse, whoever she was. I did have theories that it was Rebecca Chambers, but that is a big bias. However, now with this new stuff, I do not think it is. I think it's an NPC nurse. I don't see how Rebecca Chambers would be working in a care home. But yeah, that's not likely.
Late stage career. I don't know. There's an interesting caveat to your theory there about Dempsey, because this demo apparently started with that shot or that sequence from the trailer of Grace on the gurney. She's hooked up to an IV and she kind of wrestles herself off. She gets out with a broken bottle, apparently, managed to take her restraints off. So she's been put here by someone rather than necessarily been sent here, which again throws up a whole other bunch of questions, some of which Steve and I talked about in the full podcast episode that came out this weekend. Do recommend you check that out. Hello to all of our new subscribers, by the way. Thank you for joining us. Do check out our sort of full hour and a half immediate reactions to the trailer, where we talked about theories like that. We also had a theory, and I know you also kind of maybe not ascribe to this theory, maybe more a hopeful thought on this theory, but this monster thing. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not it's Lisa or Trevor. People are, drawing their swords on what side of the argument they want to be on. I am going both ways at the same time, because whilst I don't think it is, and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, especially if we're not in Raccoon City, apparently, not only do we have the shaking of chains with this creature, people who played the game and saw the game being played, the sounds that it makes are quite literally the sounds that Lisa Trevor makes. If whatever it is, I feel like it's been done on purpose. But how are you feeling about this unnamed creature? Lisa Trevor or no?
Oh my God, Sai. I have
gut feeling.
I have right. So I'm trying to keep I'm trying to keep everything in my head, okay? Because I could get excited, and I can get very excited about things over and get myself excited and then get disappointed. However, we know that Grace's blood or something special about her is why she's doing this in the first place. I have a theory that Alyssa, her mother, knew this, and potentially is why she got, quote, murdered, because I'm not even sure that even happened.
Right, yeah.
But yes, I think that she has potentially, Grace is potentially the reason that she was sent here to maybe combat against not Lisa. If that is the identity of this BOW in Requiem. I do, just to bring myself back a bit though, the BOW, they're wearing a gown of some kind, like a patient would wear in a care home. Are
they? I was trying to figure out what I'm looking at there.
It looks like a loose gown. Lisa also wears clothes, but she wears a sack. Pretty much.
She wears other people's faces as well.
Yeah. I'm not saying that Lisa won't be involved, because it does look so similar, and Capcom do those baits and switches a lot. But yeah, I am trying to keep my own hype for this theory under a lid. And like the first impressions of what Capcom sends out, they tend to be, I know we discussed it, but they tend to be a very small portion of the game. So I expect everything we've been shown so far, even in this demo, to be a very small part of the game in totality.
Yes.
And it's likely going to be very early in the game as well. But I really do hope that is some kind of involvement with Lisa in some way.
To build upon that as well, we talked about the perspective thing and the non-combat thing. It's been noted that the perspective option that the game gives you, whether it was played on hands or off hands, it has been noted that it says first person recommended and third person. Okay. Now, we're doing a lot of theorizing on this video, and that's what I get for bringing James in here, and that's I'm all about it. I'm fine with it. But in terms of a gameplay theory, there are people quite rightfully suggesting then that perhaps we do have a second playable character that is third person recommended. And obviously you can change. It's not just you pick your perspective at the beginning of the game, you can change on the fly with Grace. But the idea of there being two playthroughs, and if you're delivering a Resident Evil game where it's like you can play both perspectives, it would be cool to be like, this is the one that is built for first, this is the one that is built for third, but you can do it however you want. is kind of a magical idea. And you and I, we've been talking on the Discord server recently about some concerns about a second playable character potentially stealing the thunder from Grace. But I think if you do it this way, they are probably going to be separate selectable things, quite possibly, or at least their stories will bounce between each other. I don't think there'll be a playable character who comes in midway through and steals Grace's thunder. At least I'm very hopeful that's not the case. So I'm starting to wonder now if your first-person creeping around terrifying monster puzzle-solving first-person Grace game is also accompanied by the Raccoon City return legacy character probably coming back, third-person action-packed kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see how the balance works, but that is a hell of a way to attempt to bake and eat the cake.
Yeah, oh man, that would be great. As long as they don't do the same thing they did with Chris in Village,
right,
where it was like a 10-15 minute adventure, and we're out. It was really ham-fisted. Totally. I like that actually. I like that. I like the way that could work. Yeah, definitely. We've had theories about who it could be if it was going to be somebody. I really hope it's not them. I really hope it's somebody else. I really hope it's Rebecca Chambers. But sometimes we have dreams, okay? That's really exciting if it is, because it also adds an extra angle to the game. Extra mechanics to it and stuff.
I think they've really gone all in, at least from what we've heard about this first-person perspective, about getting the most out of that kind of style of gameplay. Apparently, this demo was very much about light and dark. The use of a Zippo lighter was a prominent thing. There was a puzzle where you'd have to use both hands, so you would have to turn the lighter off and plunge yourself into darkness, and it was being played on PS5 Pro, so it really got the most out of that kind of perspective. Lots of reports that have come out from the likes of Eurogamer, and several big YouTubers have said that it's absolutely terrifying. So whether or not, there is a third-person action segment or not, what we know so far is that this game is super scary.
Yeah.
Which is worrying because I'm a big fraidy cat, but also very exciting because the best parts of 7 and Village were the scariest parts for me. Yeah. So very excited. No, I'm just so excited.
I'm excited to be scared for the first couple of playthroughs and then completely dismantle
take the game apart. Yeah, absolutely.
We were just made aware. Well, actually, I say made aware. I was looking at screenshots and there's a hole in a roof of a certain corridor. Vent tactics. Yep. Anybody? Alien Isolation. I was thinking. Whatever this thing
Maximilian Dude, the YouTuber, has said that this game feels to him when he played it more like Alien Isolation than Resident Evil Village, and I'm more than happy to play a Resident Evil skin on Alien Isolation. Like, I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah, we were also told another really interesting thing, and it's because this is something I said. I'm not in any kind of fantasy leagues or anything, but the embargo, that lifted, and folks said, while they were playing it, and they were promised by Capcom that this was going to be a bigger game than any previously. So I had a theory when this game was first teased with the trailer that it would be amazing if we had several hubs and this was a fully explorable Raccoon City.
Yeah,
I would really, really love that.
It feels like it's possible for everyone saying that you played this demo they said leaving the environment. I don't know if that means to a different part of the care center or just out of the building, which makes me wonder about this creature. Can it follow you into different buildings or what?
Oh, man.
But I do wonder if Grace is going to have these smaller puzzle boxy hubs and then we have an open-ish world. It's kind of crazy. It's going to be so interesting to listen back to this come February because the speculation is wild, and Capcom have done a very good job of revealing as little as possible in order to generate this kind of buzz, even coming right down to them saying that there would be a new mechanic on the Stalker enemy to its nature that sets it apart from any other Stalker in series history, but Capcom has politely asked the exact nature of that to be kept a surprise. Just be rest assured that it's clever. Realizing this twist allows you to wrest just a little power back without diminishing the terror that comes from Eurogamer.
That's so exciting.
I said at the end of the podcast on the weekend, this is probably the most excited I've been ever for a Resident Evil game. And that is not abated by any of this information. If anything, I'm just happy it came in the afternoon rather than midnight, so I can actually calm down and sleep tonight. But just to close this out, James, where is your hype on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, I did say I was keeping it under a lid. I did say that.
The last 20 minutes, the lid has come off.
Let's go with decimals. I think right now I'm at 8.6 out of 10.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It's weird because with this feels like a cherry, on top, and it's kind of made it come full circle for me. Yeah, because I didn't really get to fully appreciate the teaser when it came out, but this has really put the cherry on it and has bumped me up from, say, a 7.1 to an 8.6 on the moist scale.
Let us know down in the comments below how excited you are about Requiem right now. What are your theories based off the gameplay demo? Again, thank you all for following along. We have had a big boost recently, obviously off the back of all this news, and we're all very excited about this game, so we'll be continuing to cover it in the future, and also just continuing to cover Resident Evil. We do all kinds of stuff based on every tiny little bit of minutiae about Resident Evil, so yeah, make sure you subscribe to the channel and find us on all of your favourite podcast feeds. But for now, I've been Si, this has been James.
Bye.
Thank you for watching, and have a good week.